And this was the second vote, which was, you're not gonna believe who I'm carving into a pumpkin this year. There's a bit of a twist, so make sure you stay to the very end. So it's Halloween time, which means pumpkin carving time, which means I better go get a pumpkin. I'll be back. Okay, so I've got my pumpkin. Now, there's a bit of a twist this year. You see, I did a bit of a poll to see who you guys would like to see me carve into a pumpkin, and it was a draw, which means I've got to do 2 pumpkins now. So I'll be back again. $16. So yes, 2 carvings this year. Yay! Because it's not hard enough. Okay, so I remember from last year some of the things that I had problems with on my video here. So the first thing I've got to do is actually prepare my stencil. So this is how I do it. So, okay, so drawing for a pumpkin is, you've got to think a little bit differently because it's actually a physical thing. You can't have anything floating. So like if you've got eyes and they're just in the middle, if you don't connect it to the rest of it, it's just going to fall. Let me show you what I mean. Say Anya here, see her mouth, it's actually not connected to anything. So what I've had to do is like cheat it a bit and connect it to the hair and have the hair sweeping over a bit. Otherwise it's just going to float and not be there. Because obviously every bit that's orange is the pumpkin and every bit that's white is going to be cut out and that's where the light's going to shine through. Say you did a nose, what's going to hold that bit of pumpkin there? Nothing. So I can't have the nose. So it's going to be like that. So that's what you've got to think of when you're doing your pumpkin. You have to have things physically connected to the pumpkin so they actually hold there, because you can't have anything floating because it'll just fall. So as you can see, the first one that I'm going to be doing is Anya. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut out all the bits that are white and then I'm going to use that as my stencil. But, haha, first things first, I learnt this from last year, check it. So hold it against the pumpkin and yes, same as last year, it's too big. So I've got to print it again, just a little bit smaller. I'll be right back. Okay, a little bit smaller now. Hopefully this will work. That looks like a better size. So what I've got to do now is cut out all the white bits, and this is going to take a little while. So speed the footage up. So the trick here is you've got to make sure that it all holds together. If there's a bit that's like floating, it's not going to work. So you've got to make sure that it's all one solid piece. I'll show you when we finish. So what I'm doing here is I'm reinforcing this just by putting a bit of sticky tape on it. That way it's just going to have that little bit of extra strength on it, so it won't tear so easily. Still got to cut through it. Alright, so I've got my stencils cut now. So what I've got to do is I've got to place it over here and get my Sharpie and just scribble in the bits that I want to cut away. So let's get to it. Alright, so that's what we've got. Looks a bit scary at the moment, but as we cut through, hopefully it'll work. And what we're focusing on is the light coming through. So that's what makes the image. I hope. Okay, so now we're getting to the cutting part. This is where the scary bit comes in. Ooh, no. Okay, so I've got to cut a big hole in the top so I can scoop all the guts out of it. And then it's Anya time. So let's do it. Now last year, I remember I didn't cut the hole big enough. So I'm keeping that in mind and I'm going to try and do a bigger hole this year. So fingers crossed. Here we go. Ooh, that's right, it's harder than it looks. And I want to keep my fingers by the end of it too. Alright, so I hope the hole is big enough. Let's have a look. Ew, look at that. Ew. Okay, so I've got my bucket here, or bowl I should say, and it's just, it's all spiderwebbery, it's yuck. Okay, so, and it still works, okay, cool. And it's stuck again. Oh, now the yucky bit. I don't like this bit, ew. I'll see how much I can get with a spoon for starters. Ew. Yuck, it's so gross. Oh, this is actually a thick pumpkin. Oh dear. Blah. I've made such a big mess. Look at that. Ew. Okay, so my pumpkins are now gutted. They've had their heads ripped off and their guts pulled out. Now it's the really scary part where I've actually got to now make the really fine incisions. So let's do it. So I've got my drill, I've got my knife, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drill in some holes around the corners just to make it easy for my knife to get through. It worked last year, hopefully it'll work this year. It's really tight though, so oh, here goes nothing. Alrighty, so that should be my last cut. That will hopefully be Anya. Once we put the light through and it'll shine through and we'll see that it looks like Anya, hopefully. Okay, so that's Anya. Now to work on the secret one. Ooh, who could it be? Big pumpkin time. Okay, let's get to it. Alrighty, time for the big reveal. So first off, let's do Anya. And she turned out really well, I thought. It actually worked, yeah! And now for the secret one from the poll, we had two, remember? So we had 2 equal votes, and this was the second vote, which was Batman. Check it out, how cool does that look? So there we have it, there's our Halloween pumpkins for another year. So we got our Anya, which I showed you, and our Batman, which was the secret carving that I did, but it was done the same way. So now for a point of reference, this here was the stencil that I used for Anya, and this is how she turned out. And this was the stencil that I actually used for Batman, and this is how he turned out. And I think they looked really good. So the key thing to remember is the bits that you're cutting out are the bits that are gonna allow the light to shine through. So they're not going to be the shadow, they're going to be the light. Everything else is in shadow. So that's something to think of when you're doing your own pumpkins. So I have to say, the finished results, they're a lot of fun. You can actually play with them. We're putting them out on the streets. My kids have been getting them, shining them against the wall and just projecting light. It's really fun. So have a go yourself. Make your own pumpkins, do your own stencils, cut them out. Just have fun. It's awesome. So why don't we keep the fun going by checking out one of these other spooky videos that I did for Halloween, and I'll see you there.